What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a vintage collection market update, and we are nearing the end of the stretch for the HasLab Ghost Backer project, and this video is probably going to air after the HasLab project has come and gone. So I'm sure all the usual suspects on YouTube will cover what the final tally is, but as of the making of this video on September 5th, I wanted to give you a quick update. It looks like Kanan Jarrus is going to be unlocked after the 14,000 tier backer has come and gone. Right now, we sit at 13,823 as of Tuesday the 5th. So it looks like Kanan will probably get unlocked later today. But the big question is, in the current environment where things are a lot more expensive and people's maybe money is stretched a little tighter, it'll be interesting to see whether Zeb Aurelius gets unlocked or not at that 17,000 backer mark. So whether this sees another shoot up in final backers or not, like the Razor Crest did, who knows? It does seem like that the number of backers at the end of the campaign is not following the same trajectory as the Razor Crest, or even like the Rancor monster, things like that. So I don't know if it's going to hit 17,000 or not, but I'm sure all of the guys on YouTube, like Brett on Fett, Boss Bounty, Usual Mike, Only One Kenobi, I'm sure all of those guys will cover what the final tally is by the time this video airs. But 1 day, 14 hours left as of the making of this video, and looks like Kanan's going to be unlocked here any minute. But hopefully for those of you who are excited about the Ghost, that you guys get Zeb Aurelius to fill out the Rebels crew. But I did put together some of the usual suspects, as well as maybe some of the not-so-usual suspects within the vintage collection line that have sold here recently. Lots of graded items sold, but let's start off with some of the items that have not been graded. We've got some foil card backs that were really nice. The first one is the Ultimate Galactic Hunt Anakin Skywalker Name Pill, Revenge of the Sith. Beautiful example. That one sold for $152.50, which is about the going rate for a really clean foil Anakin Skywalker. I found several data points kind of all around that price point, $150 to $170, somewhere in there. But that was a pretty nice example. Next up was a Canadian clone commander, Cody. And we go like a whole year without seeing Canadian examples for this foil Cody, but over the last 3 to 4 months, we have seen at least 3 now that I remember that were the Canadian example for the foil clone commander Cody. And this one sold a little bit less than the last 2 have sold. They were kind of hovering between 160 and 180. This one did sell for 167.50. It did have some very light edge wear by the hanger tab as well as at the very top of the card there. But that was a pretty nice example of the Canadian example for VC19 foil clone commander Cody, 167.50, 41 bids on that, so lots of action. Next up, Kit Fisto. This was an unpunched US card. This one sold in a buy it now situation for $200 free shipping. So that's maybe a little higher than where we've seen this one selling for recently. It got up to about $240, and then it kind of came back down to earth a little bit and was hovering between $140 and $175, but this one did sell in a buy it now for $200 free shipping. Luke Skywalker Dagobah Landing, another usual suspect, VC44. This one had the clear saber. It was a punched example on the US card. You can see how clear that saber is versus the dark blue saber. That's another variation, but I find that the clear saber version is a little bit tougher to find. And again, it was a punched example, US card, fairly clean overall, although it did have some edge wear at the bottom of the card, as you can see there on the back. But pretty good example, probably 85 grade. This one sold for $140 plus $12 shipping. I think it's probably, for an unpunched example, probably closer to $200 would be my guess on that one. Next up, Darth Maul. This is another one that sold here recently. This one is the US card, unpunched. Very light edge wear on the bottom of the card, on the back again. That one sold for $118 US free shipping. That's maybe a little higher. I think if you're patient in an auction, you can find this for under $100, but this one did sell for $118 free shipping. Next up, Grand Moff Tarkin. This one sold over in the UK. This was an unpunched US card, and this one, it has the paperwork inside the blister, so I don't know if like the Darth Maul sticker or whichever, I think it was the Darth Maul that was on that Grand Moff Tarkin. It maybe either the sticker was taken off by the owner or it maybe just did not receive the sticker in the factory, but it's missing the sticker, but it does have the paperwork inside. And that one sold over in the UK again for 120 pounds, which is 151 US dollars. And stay tuned tomorrow for my what to buy video, because I think I have a CAS graded Grand Moff Tarkin that is at auction. That looks really nice. And right now I think it's at about 150 US dollars. So I can't remember when that one ends, but I think it ends after my what to buy video will go live. So I'll try to include that one in the video tomorrow. Next up is Ahsoka. This is a VC102, the original issue, and unpunched US card. And it maybe looks like it might have just some light spider veins or, you know, non-color breaking creases at the top of the card. It just could be a texture there, but it wasn't perfect. It did have some edge wear on the left-hand side, but again, this is another one that continues to kind of hover between $175 and $200. You can see some light edge wear and scratches on the bottom right-hand side on the front of the card back. It's still sold for $175 plus $10.85 shipping. So this is another one that I think if you're patient, you can probably find one in a little better condition. This one had bad scuffing on the back of the card as well. So this is probably at best like an 80 grade. So be patient out there, because this one has really dropped in price. I would wager that in a auction, this one would probably have sold for below $150, but it looks like maybe the buyer did not notice the scuffing on the back of the card there. So it was definitely not a near mint plus example. It's still sold for $175 plus $10.85 shipping. Next up, we've got the Mandalorian in the N1 Starfighter. This is obviously the pack-in for the N1 Starfighter, and I found several different data points. This one sold for $95 plus $17.10 shipping. How many Mandalorians are they going to make? Although I do really like the card art on that one. You can see how great that looks with Grogu. Very excited to have his little viewing port there on the back of the N1 Starfighter. But I also like the fact that this one's packed in with the Darksaber. So very, very cool looking card back on that one. So again, that one sold for $95 plus $17 shipping. This one was free shipping, and it was a best offer accepted of $120. So it looks like it's kind of hovering, at least right now, for between $110 and $120 after accounting for shipping. So maybe just be patient, kind of let the market settle out a little bit as more people get this in hand, and they only want the N1 Starfighter, so they sell off this one to help pay for the Starfighter itself. But this one right now, at least, it's hovering for between $110 and $120. But that's a beautiful looking card back. Next up, I've got some graded examples. This was an interesting one. This is the vintage comic art version of Boba Fett, loose graded. So this is not one you find very often. This was an uncirculated 95 grade from UKG, and it sold in an auction for pretty big money. It sold for 100 pounds, which is 126 US dollars. I assume that it was somebody in the UK that bought this, because the global shipping program was another $47.93 in shipping. So it would have been like $160 some, which seems like a big number for a loose graded example. Now, shout out to Brett on Fett, fellow YouTuber. I just got back from out of town after a pretty long trip to Dallas to visit my sister-in-law. And man, it was a rough trip because my entire family got salmonella poisoning. My son is still sick, but everyone else has finally recovered from it. I did not get it because I did not eat Chipotle. Stay away from Chipotle. Oh my gosh. It was 24 hours of pure heck. It was terrible. So stay away from Chipotle. They seem to have food poisoning problems off and on every other year, it seems like. So luckily I did not. I had a salad, but I avoided the meat. And that meat was contaminated with bantha poodoo, apparently, because everyone else got sick. So it was a nightmare. But I got home, and there was a package waiting for me, and it was from Brett on Fett, and it was the Death, Lies, and Treachery Boba Fett mint on card, and it is a stunner of an example. So I'm sure I'll do an unboxing video for some of my recent pickups. I have finally broken the spell, and I've bought a few action figures, both vintage collection as well as vintage Kenner, one bootleg, one comic. So I'm sure I'll do kind of a amalgamation of everything I've picked up in September, late August, sometime later this month. But thank you, Brett, so much for sending me the Death, Lies, and Treachery Boba Fett. That's the last one I needed. As you guys know, Boss Bounty sent me the vintage version, the vintage colors for Boba Fett, as well as this one, this comic art version. So Again, thank you, Brad. That was way too kind of you. But anyway, this loose graded, uncirculated 95 vintage comic art version did sell for 126 US dollars. Here is VC02. This is the Hoth Leia, and it was a punched example, which I don't know if I've seen an unpunched example. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up with some of the other early examples like VC01 Dengar, but this was a pretty nice looking example. It was graded 9.0 on the modern scale with the mail-away rocket firing Fett, so really clean example. That one did sell in an auction. Only one bid, $99 free shipping. I thought that was a great deal for a very clean VC02 Princess Leia Hoth. Next up, we had those beautiful SDCC pack-in, Death Star pack-ins that sold. They were all uncirculated, sold in the UK. They were all UKG graded. And here is the Han Solo Revenge of the Jedi graded uncirculated 90. And that was a stunner of an example. It sold for 82 pounds, which is 103 US dollars. That was a good deal on that one. Next up was the B-Wing pilot. That one was a really good deal. It sold for 60 pounds, which is 75 US dollars. So not much action on that one. That was an uncirculated 90 grade. U90, 95, 95 were the subscores on that. So that was a great deal there on the B-Wing pilot. Next up was R2-D2. This one went for a little bit more money. This one was an uncirculated 95%. Wow, very high grade for that SDCC exclusive. That one again sold for 102 pounds, which is 128 US dollars. I mean, given what this one sells for, just the retail release ungraded, usually between 80 and 90 US dollars ungraded. To get the SDCC version, Revenge of the Jedi, uncirculated 95 from UKG for 128 dollars. That was a steal of a deal. Next up was Luke Skywalker Indoor Capture on the Revenge of the Jedi card. This was another uncirculated 95. That one sold for 127 pounds, which is 160 US dollars. Another price point I would have been willing to pay all day long for such a high grade. The TIE Fighter palette from that same seller. This one was an uncirculated 95. That one sold for 120 pounds, which is 151 US dollars. So some really good deals on those. Admiral Akbar was an uncirculated 90 grade. That one sold for 85 pounds, which is 107 US dollars. I would imagine that some collectors bid on multiple examples of these, but to get all of those in such high grades for, once you factor in the grading costs for a lot of those and the fact that they were SDCC Death Star exclusives, those were some good deals. This was an interesting one from the same seller. This was the VC17 Foil General Grievous, graded by AFA. Now, it said it yellowed for the blister. So it was an 85 grade, 85, 80, 90 were the subscores. And I can't tell that this is yellowed. So I don't know if the inner tray was yellowed on that one, but the outside blister does not look yellowed to me. So, who knows? Maybe it could have been an error by AFA, but I don't see any yellowing whatsoever on this blister for the General Grievous. So I'm guessing that they must have done a really close, examination with a microscope to see that maybe either the outer blister was yellowing, which it does not look like to me, or more likely the inner tray had yellowed. And I hate that AFA does that, because to me, if the outer blister is still good and you got faint yellowing to just the inner tray, it's a shame that they do give it the yellow designation. But that was a stunner of an example. It still sold for 167 pounds, which is 210 US dollars. So whether it was labeled yellow or not, I mean, it seems like the market said, who cares? Because that foil example was a stunner, and it still got $210 for that one. So that was a really nice looking example of VC17 General Grievous on the foil card back. Next up, here's some examples of figures that maybe we haven't seen graded here, if ever, on the channel. But this is Axe Woves. This was a 9.25 grade Target exclusive. Very tough to get this one in high grade, obviously, because, obviously at Target, they tend to be either manhandled on the pegs, or they don't arrive very clean when shipped from Target, because they ship everything in Jiffy bags, and I just stopped buying any Target exclusives. But anyway, this one did get a 9.25 grade from AFA, and again, it was the Target exclusive Axe Woves, and that sold for $99. One bid on that one plus $16 shipping. Next up was Figure and Dan. That one was another 9.25 grade, and this one was an uncirculated designation on the modern scale, so that was a really nice example there for Figure and Dan. That one sold again also for $99 plus $16 shipping. I thought those were some great deals on those. Next up, here's another one we don't talk about often, and two different graded examples of R2 SHW Antok Merrick's droid on the Rogue One card back. Great looking card art on that one. This one was a 90% gold level from UKG and sold for 87 pounds, which is 109 US dollars plus shipping. And then over here in the US, we had a 9.0 grade from AFA. This was the fan channel exclusive, graded by AFA. That one sold in an auction for $131.50 plus $15 shipping. So anywhere from about 110 to about 140, 145 after accounting for shipping for Antok Merrick's droid. Next up, I got a couple of different examples of VC20 Canadian Yoda, obviously one of the holy grails for the vintage collection line in terms of retail releases. This one was the punched example, and it sold for $800 plus $10.20 shipping on one bid. And I know who bought this one. This one was a Patreon supporter as well as a good friend of mine. So congratulations to Chet O, who was able to pick this one up and finish out his vintage collection run. He said this one was the last one he needed to have every single vintage collection figure to date mint on card. So congratulations, Chet, on this one. $800. Think about where this one was. So, I mean, you know, we talked about this in the last market update. This one has really dropped in price, and this one did sell again for $800. Congratulations again, Chet. And then finally, this one did not sell again. This one is the unpunched version of VC20 Yoda, and the starting bid price in the last video, I believe, was $1,400. Nobody bid. And so the seller relisted it for $1,100 and nobody bid again, believe it or not. Remember how this one was going for over, I think it was $2,800 if memory serves. I could be way off on that, but it was, I know it was over $2,000, but if memory serves, it was closer to $3,000 where this one was selling for last year during the height of the market. And now for an unpunched example with an acrylic case and what looked to be in really great condition, $1,100 did not sell. Nobody bid on it. So it's pretty incredible how much this one has dropped, but it's just a testament, I think, to the economic environment more than anything else. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you're new to the channel and you like the vintage collection, I do try to provide weekly updates, so consider subscribing. Thanks again, and I'll be back soon.